Manufacturing setup. So we are going to identify and perform setup tasks for Oracle Manufacturing Cloud using the FSM, and we'll see how OSN is getting set up, how to enable a particular OSN for a particular object, create a plant if already existing organization, or we can create it from scratch. How do we enable the inventory organization to make it as a plant? Then we'll talk about defining plant parameters and some securities. We'll also look into some of the profile options, lookups, and descriptive flexfields which are available out of box. After that, we will see how to create the work areas, work centers, resources, and standard operations. And then we will also talk about defining the shift and production calendar exceptions. So these are the topics: the overview of setup, the FSM, the enabling the OSN, enabling a particular organization into a plant, defining the plant parameters, plant security, and all these steps we will going to talk one after another. So first and foremost, you have to do is enable an organization as a plant. Next, define the plant parameters, give the access. From the common setup perspective, from the manufacturing perspective, you can define the profile options, lookups, and descriptive flexfields which are there, which you can enable and use them. And coming to the core of manufacturing, if the organization is enabled for a particular or enabled for manufacturing, and we have set the plant parameters, now within that particular plant, what are the basic setups you have to do? First and foremost, you have to create the work areas, resources, work centers, and you can go and define the operations. So there might be certain operations which you use regularly, the same kind of operation wherein the same kind of resources are used for the same duration. So in spite of defining such operations again and again for utilization in different work definitions, we can come up saying that we can define a template of operations which we can name it as standard operations, and then utilize or leverage these standard operations in any work definitions wherever we see that the same kind of resources for the same duration I use to perform an activity. So for that you can define and standard operations and utilize them. Now, so when you go to the offerings, you can see these are the different offerings available as per the provisions which you have got. So you can select the manufacturing and supply chain material management offering, and then you can see all the related documents over here. And the thing which you have to do is you have to just make sure that this is enabled for implementation. Okay, the environment which we are using, it is already enabled. This is only for a fresh environment where you have taken the offering and you want to implement the manufacturing. You have to make sure that this particular checkbox is enabled from the manufacturing perspective. Then you can set the profile options. Once you go into the offering, you will see all the listed tasks available, and when you select manufacturing master data, you can see on the right hand side what are all the sequence of setups which you have to perform. If you remember the task name, you can directly search for the task name, go into the task, perform that activity. If you don't remember the task, we have provided a sequence based tasks for you. You can just go ahead and perform each and every task one after the another. Right? Either way, if you know the task name, you can type the task, search it, and perform that, or you can choose the manufacturing master data task within your offering, and you will see all the tasks available within that, and you can perform one after the another. Regarding the social network, as I said, social network OSN is available for many objects in certain applications. It's only up to us whether I want to use OSN for that object or not. So how do we do that? So there is a task called Manage Oracle Social Network Object for Supply Chain Management. This is the task: Manage Oracle Social Network Object for Supply Chain Management. So once you go into that particular task, you can see different applications, and within a particular application, what are the different objects for which you can enable OSN. So accordingly, you can select a particular object in a particular application, enable that, and while enabling a particular or while enabling OSN for a particular object, you can also decide what are the attributes or fields I want to show or send to the person with whom I am collaborating. For example, here, if it is you have enabled it for work order, so when work order is enabled for OSN, what are the details I want to send it? The work order number, the start date, completion date, all those attributes which I want to send to the person with whom I am collaborating on this particular topic. So I can decide that. Then you can click on synchronize. That is about your OSN. Now, coming to the setting up of plant and plant parameters and security. So how does it look like? So this is your plant organization setup, inventory organization setup, where under the general tab, you have a checkbox here saying organization is a manufacturing plant. So if you enable this particular organization which you see, which you have defined, will be for two purposes. You can do inventory activity as well as this is enabled for your manufacturing activity. Right? So you have time zone setups, the schedules, and this is all from the inventory perspective. What is the master organization? What is the item revisions? Whether this particular organization you want to use locator control, yes or no, all that stuff. From the manufacturing perspective, you want to enable it for a particular manufacturing activities, just enable this particular checkbox. Organization is a manufacturing plant. Now, you can also make a particular organization as a contract manufacturer organization. If that is a requirement, you have to enable this as well. So this organization will become a contract manufacturer organization. So this is one of the setups which I make an inventory organization as inventory organization representing a manufacturing plant. Now once we have made a particular organization as a manufacturing plant, now it's a time to set the plant parameter for that particular organization. You can see over here, you have selected the organization for which you want to set the plant parameters. So what are the things which I perform over here? So here again, you can set your manufacturing calendar, okay, which specifies the working time in the plant, and it is used to determine the availability for your scheduling of work orders. And for automated reporting of component issue transactions, you can set the default supply sub-entries. So for each and every component in the structure, where do I consume this components from, could be decided from this plant parameters. Okay. And once you produce or complete that particular product, where it should go and complete, in which default completion sub-entry. Now, coming to this point of default supply sub-entry, in the parameter you have set, first and foremost, you can set the supply sub-entry at the item level. This details which you set the item level, when you define the structure, will be populated to your structure level. And when you define the work definition, this information will be populated to your work definition level. When you create the work order, the details from the work definition for these components, supply type and sub-entry, will be defaulted from the work definition to your work order. Right? And from the work order, when you execute that, those details of supply sub-entry, supply type will be considered. If you don't have the supply type and supply sub-entry defaulted or set at item levels, structure level, or work definition level, then by default, system will consider the parameter value. Okay. So if the values are set at that level, either item, structure, work definition, work order, fair enough. If nothing is found, then system will consider the value which you have set at the parameter level. Right? Now, when you define the work definition, so what should be the starting operation sequence and how the operation should be incremented by what number. So starting operation should be 10 and then it should be incremented by 10. So next operation will be 20, 30 and so forth. You can decide that. And this is for the plant parameter is organization specific. Now the phantom operation inheritance, do you want both material and resources, only material, only resource or nothing? You can decide that. What should be the numbering of the work orders if you want to create the work orders numbering automatically in this particular organization? What should be the numbering? What should be the prefix? What should be the suffix? What should be the starting number? All that you can set it over here. When I create a particular work order in a organization, if the work order number is null, and if I try to save, system is going to generate an automated number based on the prefix, suffix and the number generation method you have given over here. Or otherwise, I can also go ahead and put a manual number there. Next, the default transaction modes should be entry, all or none. Default transaction quantity, you want none or you want default the material as well as the resources. You want to capture the serialization operation, yes or no, at what level. Allow quantity changes during backflush. You want to allow the user to change the quantities while doing the backflush. Both means both material and the component. When doing the backflush, user can go ahead and change the quantities of the component and resources. If allow quantity change during backflush is for both, or you can even decide only for material, only for resource or none. If it is none, when system is performing a backflush, it will be not give permission for a user to go ahead and change that. All those fields will be get grayed out. Similarly, when work order traveler or label, when it is getting, as I said, these are the seeded reports available, you can generate that. But if you have your own BI publisher, okay, the template, then that template name you can provide over here. So whenever you are generating the work order traveler or the label, this particular template will be taken into consideration, whatever template you provide here. If the template value over here is null, then whatever seeded template is available within the system, that template will be taken into consideration to generate these reports. You can even optionally decide to include component yield in the material requirement and automatically associate serial number during the work order import. If you are importing the work orders from any other system and these are serial numbers, so you want to associate the serial numbers also to that you can decide over here. Regarding the outside processing, the purchase requisition trigger is at work order release or at operation. You can decide that. So these are about the work order or the plant parameters. Out of box, these are the different roles available: the manufacturing engineer, the production supervisor, the production operator. These are the seeded roles available. Accordingly, having certain privileges, you can utilize them, or you can make your own users, own roles with certain privileges and assign it to different uses. So each and every role have its own advantages and what access or privilege he or she can do. So the manufacturing develops, maintains and improves manufacturing processes needed to achieve production goals according to production specifications. Production supervisor is responsible for managing shop floor production resources and activities to ensure on-time production of products at the required quantity levels that meet customer expectations. And the operator is primarily responsible for efficient operation of duties and responsibilities assigned in the operation of equipment or assembly of goods. Regarding the plant data access, you can see over here for each and every user, a role has to be assigned, and that role in which organization for which plant he will have, that context has to be set, right? So you can set it for a manufacturing plant, a user, what kind of role and for which particular organization or for whichever plant he can have that access. So a particular user might be a manufacturing engineer in one organization, whereas only a production operator in some other organization. So things like that you can set appropriately for each and every user. So this is about your plant security or the data security, which can be used, which can be controlled by the task manage data access for user tasks. Coming to the profile options, these are certain profile options available. One is the SCM common, the default service duration class profile option, and this has to be set at the site level. It identifies the unit of measure class, which represents the time unit of measure. If the resource usage is set to any within this class, then they are treated as schedulable resource. All resources with other cannot be scheduled. The hour unit of measure profile option must be set at site level. HR, right? HR, the R. It is used internally by the unconstrained scheduling engine to convert the resource usage to equivalent real world time and the R should be within the class set by default service duration class profile option to allow scheduling and lead time calculations. And you can even set the default organization for a particular user. Whenever a user logins, what organization should be defaulted for him through this default manufacturing plant organization profile option, which indicates that whenever a user logins, this particular organization will be defaulted, and it can be set at the user level. Certain profile options available like resource class, work center resource group, work order operation transaction reason codes, work order subtypes, work definition operation resource activity. All these are lookups available, and these lookups can be leveraged for defining some more values or the values as per the business requirement, and can be used when and where required. Certain DFFs available on whatever areas, like work area, production resource, center, standard operation resource, standard operations, work definition operations, work definition operation resource, work definition operation materials. So these DFF, as you know, if for a particular page, if you want to capture some more additional information which you cannot capture in the standard fields, you can enable this particular DFFs at these respective pages, and you can key in the information for your information sake to take it forward. You just have to enable this particular DFFs so that you can use them. Now, the work area. So if you see the work area, what exactly this work area is, from the definition perspective, I would say it identifies a physical or geographical or logical grouping of work centers. Okay, so production operators can report material, resource, and operation transactions performed at work centers that belong to a specific work area. The Manage Work Area page enables users to search, create, edit, and inactive work areas. Right? So work area means, let's say I'm into electronics industry. Okay, I'm just trying to explain you from a layman perspective. So I produce mobiles and I produce laptops. Let's say that is my business or my manufacturing unit. So the work area where I produce laptops will be my laptop work area. The work areas where I produce mobiles will be my mobile work area. Now within the laptop work area, I may have my own assembly area, I may have my own testing area, I may have own quality area and packing area. Similarly, within the mobile work area, I may have my own assembly area, my own testing area, quality area, packing area, and so that. So center, sorry. Okay. So within laptop area, I have my assembly center, my testing center, quality center, packing center. So these are departments within a work area. From the mobile perspective, my assembly center, my packing center, my quality center, so on. Okay. So all this group of centers for type of work which I perform is my work areas. Now coming to the resources are charged to the work order based on the rate, and a user can, while defining the resources, user can click on the define rates checkbox or the button, and he can provide whatever rates per hour is charged by that particular resource. Meaning a resource could be either a human resource or equipment. So if I use a particular resource for 1 hour, how much I charge, how much dollars I charge per 1 hour. Okay, so that rates I can define. And while defining the resource, I can even decide whether that particular resource is available for 24 hours or it is available only for a particular duration, for a particular shift. The work center, as we said, in a work center, which is nothing but a department, you have different resources. So within my assembly work center, I have different kind of resources. Okay. Within my packing, I have different resources, maybe same or different resources. Okay. And within my quality and testing, I may have different resources, both human and equipment. So work center is a grouping of resources belonging to a department, a production line, or a process cell, right? And production operators can report the material, resource, and operation transactions performed at work center. And work centers, but you can define it, you can edit them, and you can even have within the page, you can even search those work centers. So these are the three basic things from the setup perspective once you are completed the plant parameters: the work centers, the work areas, and the resources. Resource availability, as I said, once you define the resource, you can decide whether a particular resource is available for 24 hours or it is available only for certain time. And this checkbox capable to promise is going to decide that the global order promising engine should consider this resource capacity while promising or not, right? And you also have utilization and efficiency. So utilization and efficiency percentages by default will be 100, and these can be extended, and as per the process sheets, if you have values for these utilizations and efficiency, you can key in those values, and accordingly you will see the duration required will be changed. Okay, for example, let's say if 2 hours of work are required to be done using a resource, okay, and the efficiency is 50% and the utilization is 50%. So actually he takes 2 hours to complete that particular job if the utilization and efficiency is 100%. But because I am saying the utilization and the efficiency is 50% each, 50-50, so in spite of 2 hours, he will end up taking 8 hours. The formula goes like this: it will the actual hours required divided by the utilization percentage into efficiency percentage. That is the formula. So in spite of 2, it will take 8 hours to complete a particular activity if the efficiency is 50% and the utilization is 50%. So this is very critical. If you provide these values, be cautious and be specific what values you are providing. It is going to take the actual hours. Okay, so what will happen in that case? Your resources will get overloaded and all that. So everywhere, wherever the resources calculations are dealt with, this actual time will be taken into consideration, which has come after considering the efficiency utilization. So we have to be very specific if you want to provide these values. Okay. Standard operations, they said if you have a particular operation, in the operation you have different resources, and the resources, how much time this resource is required to complete that particular operation. This is what the operation is all about. And in the ongoing business, it is possible that the same kind of operation wherein the same kind of resources with the same duration is utilized in many kind of products. So in spite of defining the resource again and again, you can define standard operations and then utilize these standard operations wherever it is required. So while defining a particular standard operation, you have to define the type, the name, the description, what is the work center which I am going to use, and what are the resources which I am going to use. Okay, so what resource I am going to use and what are the units assigned, whether it is variable or fixed, and how much usage rate. So this usage rate is going to decide that this resource is used for 1 hour, this resource is used for 1 hour, so and so forth. And these are the manufacturing calendar exceptions if you want to set. If a particular resource is available on a shift, if you want to increase certain resources for a shift, if a particular resource is not available for a shift, for a day, for a week, or for a month, you can accordingly set all these particular things in a calendar, and which in turn will be considered by your manufacturing cloud. So the 4 types of shift exceptions which out of box we provide are the change shift, the remove shift, the split shift, and the add shift. All these are possible. Now here you see the screenshot, this one. The work center resource exception is created when the availability of one resource or a set of resource needs to be modified within a particular manufacturing plant. The resource exception provides a way for you to identify periods of time where the availability will deviate from the normal. By default, a resource exception will inherit the definition of shift it is based on 1. For example, if illness or vacation reduce the count for a resource, it will be for the entire shift. The primary change being captured in the exception is the override value of the availability. As a convenience, the exception will always reflect the resource that was being viewed in the calendar. But the filters of resource may be cleared or altered to find any other resource within the plant. So all that you can do over here. You can just filter all those things and just see which resource I want to replace with particular resource. Okay, and this exception will replace the availability inherited from the shift in the resource calendar as necessary. So accordingly you can put that. And these will all considered while scheduling a particular work order. So all these exceptions, the resource exceptions, the calendar exceptions will be considered. So this is about the PPT about your manufacturing setups. So let's go into the environment and see how do we perform these setups one by one. So we will start with the plant parameter, or the organization, enabling a particular organization for its whether I want to enable that particular organization for plant or not. So how do we do that? First and foremost, go to your setup and maintenance. Once you go to setup and maintenance, you can go to the task manage organizations. So go and select your offering here. So manufacturing and supply chain management is the offering, and if you remember the task name, you can directly go there, or you can just search for manage inventory organization setup. So here you have manage inventory organizations. Oh, sorry, So here you are. So just select that particular task, manage inventory organization. You can search or you can create a new inventory organization. Creation of inventory organization is already told to you or explained to you. So let me just select a particular organization, search it. So this is my organization which I have just selected, and go to manage organization parameter. Atlanta is the organization name and the code is 002. Click on manage organization parameters. So here you can see under general tab of the organization definition, you can see this particular checkbox, organization is manufacturing plant. So this is the first thing which you have to do for a particular inventory organization to make it a manufacturing plant. Next, I'm coming out of the screen. So now you have to set the plant parameters. As I said, if you remember the manage plant parameter is a task. If you remember, fine. Otherwise, you can just go to manufacturing master data on the left hand side and you can see all the tasks related to that in sequence over here. So initially, manage plant parameters, click on that. So you can choose for which plant I want to define the plant parameters. So you can change the organization accordingly. Choose the organization for which I want to define the plant parameters. For this organization is already there for 002. So what is the calendar which I am going to use? What is the default supply supplementary? What is the completion supply supplementary? What is the starting sequence increment? Phantom operation errands. I want both or material only. What will be the prefix of work order, starting number? Default transaction mode, all are entered. Default transaction quantity, both material resource or none. Then capture level of serialization operation at item, serial or the operation level. Then allow quantity change during backflash, both, none or only material or resource. You can decide. Lot selection during backflash, manual or leaf or FIFO. Sorry, FIFO and FIFO. Then the templates for these reports. If you have your own template, we have published a template, you can put it over here. When the report is getting generated, it will consider that. Otherwise, if this is null, then it will consider the default template which system is provided. And then you have purchase requisition trigger either at work order release level or prior operation completion. Whenever you want to, when do you want the system to create the purchase requisition for you in the case of OSP. So this is about the plant parameter. So once the plant parameter is done, the next thing is about your work areas. So manage work areas. These are again organization specific. So you can create a work area. As I said, given the example of laptop and mobile, the area where I am going to manufacture all my laptops, the area where I'm going to manufacture my mobiles, and so on and so forth. You can just correlate with any of the existing scenarios or business processes. So just click on manage work areas. Either you can go from here or other way also I will show you. These are all the setups. So go to home, manage plant profiles. Okay. So go to home. From there also you can create, but I would create from some other area. Now here, where is our manufacturing? So manufacturing is here. Under manufacturing, you have two work areas. One is work definition and one is work execution. So under work definition, you have the setups like work areas, work centers, resources, and definition of work definition. And under work execution, you will have the tasks like definition or creation of a work order and executing it, and executing a work orderless completion as well. So let's take this one first, work definition. So within work definition, whatever work definition we have recently created, this is the landing page, and each and every panel over here, there are 4 panels, is called info LED. So based on the user and the kind of role I have, I can see different details over here. So whichever work definition I have just uh, recently created or have updated, I can see over here. What are the work centers by work areas? So there are 3 work centers under laptop work area and 6 work centers under tablet work area. I can see, and when the moment I hover a mouse over there, you can see I can see the details, and if I click on this, it will open a new page for me with all details. So total equipments are 4 and total labor resources are 5 in this organization. So this is the information in a glance. And how do I create the work areas? Either you can choose the setup path, or you can come up over here in the application. You can even do it from here. So click on manage work area. There you are. So it's pretty simple. Just have to provide a name and a code and the description. And if you want to inactivate it, that's all. Nothing more. A name and a code and a description. Pretty simple. So you have already created that. Some laptop work area, and save and close. That is about the work area. Now, next is the resources. So how do I create a resource? I will just show you the one which we have already created. So here you can just click on any of that, a name for the resource, a code for him, and what type of resource he is, whether it is a labor resource or equipment resource. You have to decide that, and what is the unit of measure, HR, okay, and whether this particular resource is costing enabled or not. Pretty simple. That is about resources, and you can even define rates for them. If you want to create new, you can just hit on this and create a name, code, type, and these are all org specific. So the same resource, you cannot define it twice. Okay, done. And next is your work center, and work center belongs to a particular work area. So when I create any work center, so here, so if I say demo, okay, so to which work center does it belong to? So I have to decide that. And what is the supply supplementary? Okay, so if no information is there on the item which has come to structure, if nothing information on the structure, I can even decide at the work center level. So when I use the work definition, or when I define the work definition and use this particular work center there, so this information will get defaulted. If this is null, then nothing will be defaulted on a work definition and nothing will be defaulted on a work order. Whatever supply supplementary you have provided at the parameter level will be considered. Okay, and then once you have defined them, then you can add the resources to them. So what are the resources which are available? You can just go ahead and add those resources, one or as many resources as you want, which you have defined over here. All the resources you can put under a particular work center. That's all. So these are the basic setups, like work areas, work center, resources. Once these 3 are done, then you can go ahead and create the standard operations. So here you are. So under standard operations, we'll just take any one of these. So you have to give a name, internal code, okay, description, and work center, to which work center this particular operation I'm going to perform, whether I'm performing assembly, milling, drilling, packing, testing, quality, whatever, coloring, repairing. So different kind of operations you can have, right? So each and every operation will be performed under a particular center, to which center, in which center I am going to perform this particular operation. I have to take in that, and then whether it is count point on or automatically transact, I have to decide it, and what are the resources which I am going to use in that particular operation. What are the assigned units? whether the basis is variable or fixed, and what is the usage rate, how much hours is required to, or how much hours of this resource is required to complete this particular operation. And this schedule yes and no is going to govern whether this resource will be considered for scheduling or not in your planning. So this is how we create the standard operations. Yeah, this is about the plan setup. So next topic which we are going to talk about is about your SM application for use with manufacturing. There are, apart from these basic setups, there are something else also which we have to consider from the item attribute perspective. If you have an OSP scenario, what are the things which you have to take into consideration, all that. So next topic we'll talk about the SM application for use with manufacturing.